Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible, one brave word at a time. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the authors of a brand new, amazing book that we have coming out. This one is called We Lead, Building Connection, Community, and Collaboration for Women in Business. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to introduce these powerful women to you today. But first, I'm going to just say a huge thank you to our lead author of this community and this project, AliceAnne Loftus. AliceAnne, you had a really big mission for this book, and I'm so grateful and honored to be guiding this with you. You have gathered together a stellar group of expert authors. Oh, this is the book. Like, if I had had this book in the beginning of my business, right? Like, this is just going to catapult people 10 million steps beyond where they thought they could be. So I'm very, very excited about this topic. So today we are talking to Jennifer Osterhouse. She's a graphic design expert who has over 25 years of experience specializing in the design of powerful, response boosting, and eye-catching marketing materials. Emily Reagan is with us. She's the founder of the Unicorn Digital Marketing Assistance School, where she helps women achieve flexibility, creativity, and financial success as work-from-home marketing assistants and specialists. And Elizabeth Harris made it today. She's a dietitian who helps women break the cycle of dieting, food stress, you guys are cracking me up, food stress and body shame by showing them how to eat intuitively, nourish gently, and prioritize healthful self-care. Oh my gosh. This is going to be a fun conversation. Jen, you're going to start the party off today. Tell us about your chapter.
Woohoo! Yay! Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here with Emily and Elizabeth. So I am chapter 4 of the We Lead book. The title of my chapter is Make Your Business Shine with the Right Graphic Design, How to Create Powerful Magnetic Marketing Materials that Boost Your Business. So my chapter takes you on a journey, my journey of how I found my love for graphic design, how I turned it into a career, and then ultimately started my own business. I just have a passion for it, and I can't ever see myself not designing. I also have a section in the chapter where I talk about some assessment of your marketing materials. My goal for business owners is to make you shine, to make your marketing materials powerful and aesthetically pleasing and branded to you, your business, and what you're trying to promote.
And this topic always seems so challenging as a business owner. I know that I've gone through, I don't know, 5, 6 iterations of who I am out there and what I want it to look like. And kind of, I think that that's because as a person we evolve, as a business we evolve. So what would you say to someone who's like wanting to change their mind about it? It's okay, right?
It's okay. And it's funny you say that, because I am really encouraging people to assess their marketing materials on a regular basis, because you do change, you do evolve, your business evolves, you might change the products or services you offer, you might pivot your business. I mean, you don't want to have a new logo every year necessarily, but you definitely want to keep your marketing materials updated. And if you are going to change your branding, don't do it often, because the whole goal of it is to sort of establish the look and feel of what you're putting out there to the world, essentially. And you want to stay consistent, and in the look and feel that of the branded pieces that you are putting, whether it be digital or print, it doesn't matter. You just want to stay consistent so that people get to know you and get to know your brand and what it is that you're offering.
Yeah, and this is great clarity, I think, because I think of this 2 ways. It's good to have that logo and the way that the visual is staying consistent, but I also know that if I'm smart about it, I'll review the copy on my website like every year at least, maybe even more often than that. And that is something that might change. I might change the way I want to talk about something, but I think you're talking more about that visual being the face of the company. Yes?
Yeah. Yeah, 100% the visual. It's it's the colors, it's the fonts, it's your logo. It's I mean, you don't want everything you put out there to look the same per se, meaning, like you don't want a cookie cutter layout that you use for everything, but you want to carry those colors, your visual elements, the fonts that you're using, you want to carry that through everything that you're doing so that you're showing up as like a cohesive brand, because that's also going to develop trust. It's going to develop trust with your clients or potential clients over time. It's going to show that you're professional, that you're that your business is important to you. I mean, there's more to it than just like advertising and selling your product or service. There's another level there of, especially us as small business owners, of putting yourself out there and wanting to look your best.
Awesome. This is going to be a game-changing chapter for a lot of readers. Jennifer, thank you for being here. And also, thank you so much for being our book cover designer. I'm just going to shout you out for that real quick while we're talking to you. That's hard, especially in a collaboration where there's a lot of people involved and you kind of trying to make everyone happy, knowing you're never going to make everyone happy. So kudos to you for hanging in there with that process. It's beautiful.
Thank you. That was fun. And I have to say, it was very cool to see the book cover in so many different ways. It's not just printed, it's in the social media graphics. So thank you very much for that opportunity. I enjoyed it.
Okay, let's hear from Elizabeth next. Are you ready to tell us about your chapter?
Sure. Hi, thanks so much for having me. My name is Elizabeth Harris. I'm a dietitian and an intuitive eating counselor, and my chapter is number 13, and it's called Smash Your Scale, Improve Your Health by Shifting Your Focus from Weight to Well-Being. And basically, it's my story of how I came to work in sort of a weight, how I moved away from the traditional weight-centric version of nutrition and health, and really work in a more weight neutral space, helping women break up with dieting and diet culture and heal their relationship with food and their bodies, and really focus on overall health and well-being.
Yeah, awesome. I can't wait to get into this a little bit with you, because here you are sitting in the middle of a book about women in business. And I know for me, food's been sort of like this last frontier. I keep hoping and wishing that because it's a foundation, would get a little bit more, get my ducks in a row a little bit more. What's that advice? Like, what's that one thing you want people to know the most about this?
Yeah, I think just that first of all, your relationship with food and your body is part of your health and well-being. And if you are someone who's having trouble kind of getting your ducks in a row with food, as you say, or landing on an approach to food that is consistent and that feels good to you, and is doable, that there's a different way of approaching it. There's a lot of noise in the nutrition space. A lot of it is frankly just wrong or not true. And it tends to put people into this all or nothing space with food, trying to achieve this perfect diet or this sort of perfect way of eating. And to be honest, it just doesn't exist. The basics are really, really important, and they go a long way. And I describe your relationship with food as kind of like the foundation of a house. And just like how if you try to build a house on a faulty foundation, it's not going to stand the test of time. If you're trying to make changes to your eating and your health and well-being, and your underlying relationship with food needs healing, those changes that you're trying to make, those lifestyle changes to food, exercise, kind of all the things, they're just very unlikely to be sustainable, because they're not supported by the positive mindset and outlook and relationship with food in your body that you need to kind of carry them through.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So now I want you to talk to the business owners, the entrepreneurs who are next level busy, next level stressed, next level whatever. Like, I know this is important and it feels like a duh to me, but what do you want them to know?
Yeah, well, I think just that, of course, how you eat and how you're taking care of your body impacts every aspect of your life, and especially kind of how you show up for your business as well, right? It just from whether it's having the energy to kind of get through your day or to the kind of healthful body image so that you can show up with confidence. It all matters. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming or time consuming or difficult. It's actually the simplest strategies that don't take up a lot of time are usually the most effective and impactful.
I love that you just said that. I think I need that reminder. Thank you.
Wow.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here today. All right, Emily, let's hear it. Tell us about your chapter.
Well, hey, thanks for having me. I am Emily Reagan, a freelance digital marketer, fractional CMO, and I teach women how to start marketing assistant businesses and go from there. And my chapter is number 14, the sweet spot of the ikigai. Combine your strengths, experience, and passion and start a business you love. And I really wrote this chapter coming from a place of being a 20-year military spouse and having the most chaotic, floozy resume out there and feeling completely embarrassed by it, especially as I looked at some of my peers who knew they wanted to be a pharmacist at 16 or a doctor and like stayed put and didn't move and already have the big house. And here I am like starting over every 18 months, 2 years, 3 years if I'm lucky. And so I was feeling very ashamed and not feeling my worth from my resume every time we moved and I tried to get hired and find any kind of job related to journalism, PR, or marketing. And I even had a boss tell me he knew he could get me for cheap because I was a military spouse and people wouldn't see the value because I would just move. And he meant that in a kind way, but that's, not really how it comes across. And so my chapter is really about women embracing their strengths and finding something for themselves and creating a career for themselves and not having to settle for working for other people. And there's just so many options out there that once you see it, you can't unsee it. There truly is a way to find that sweet spot of the ikigai where you're combining what you're good at, what there's a demand for, what the world will pay for, and what you love, because there's no point in having a business that you don't actually love. So it was a fun chapter to put together, and it was hard to edit myself down too, Laura.
I know. Oh my goodness. Okay, I want to hear, like, if you can think of the moment where those things came together for you personally. Like, do you remember when that happened and how you felt when you had all of those three things together? I just read a little bit more about Ikigai from a couple other guys. So this is great.
I really fell into freelancing accidentally, and I don't think there would have been any other way, which is why when you said this is like a gift to somebody who's just starting, like I wish I had known about this, but it came from this desire to help others and people asking me. It's like basic, marketing research. What are people asking you for? And I didn't really see the value in it at the time because like I was just a good writer. I can crank out a press release. It gets printed in a newspaper word for word, And so I had these small business owners coming to me when we were stationed in Oklahoma City asking for help with PR. And I just kind of did it and charged super cheap and didn't really know what I was doing. But that's kind of when it started clicking. I'm like, oh, I have a skill, people. Like I shouldn't take this for granted. I'm good at it and I love doing it. And so I was starting to put the pieces right there, eventually moving into the spot of understanding the value of marketing and PR and like charging for that, right? That was like the last piece to come in there, but it was definitely an evolution over 10 years for me.
You're bringing something up that has been up for me lately. It's that idea when you're really good and fast at something, there is this thing about the charging. It's like, oh, that'll just take me a few minutes. Well, yeah, because you're really good and because you're really good at it, it takes you less time. But that does not mean you should undercharge, right?
Yeah, I tell that story of the locksmith a lot to my students. You know, that locksmith puts in years, decades of learning all the different locks, shows up at your house, flat fee $300, and gets in within seconds. That doesn't mean you charge him less, right?
Yeah.
All the experience is coming together. And with each person in this chapter, with anyone who's felt like they've had a like disarray of jobs, it's leading to something where you get to that locksmith level.
Yeah, locksmith level, love it. Emily, thank you so much for
Yes.
being here. All right, ladies, let's go for this real quick. So I think that most successful women, the ones that I know, they have a badass self-care routine. So they understand that idea that you give if you've got the full cup, if you're overflowing, you give from that overflow, right? So Elizabeth, what's one of your favorite personal self-care practices?
My favorite personal self-care practices. It's hard to pick just one. Definitely fueling my body in a way that feels good, and honestly, movement. I need to be active in some way every day, and even throughout the day. It doesn't have to be kind of big monumental workouts, but just making sure that I'm getting up from my chair or doing a simple stretch or something. My body really, really craves movement.
And I mean, for you, is that like a stress burner, or is it just literally like, ooh, I got to move my muscles and joints so they don't get stiff? Or it might be both.
I think it's both. It is, I definitely feel it in my body when I don't. It also, of course, helps manage stress, but honestly, it makes me happy. I get kind of bummed out if I know that I'm being really inactive.
What's your favorite superfood for a busy entrepreneur?
Good question. So I'm not really, if you want my honest answer, I'm not really a fan of the term superfood. It doesn't actually have a sort of nutritional definition. I think honestly, just eating, enjoying the food on your plate, but also eating as many kind of, I always encourage people, look at it through the lens of addition. What can you add to your plate? So adding a nutrient dense food, plant foods, whole grains, whenever you can is really helpful.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank
And I
you
guess
for
I would
that.
say also, just even more than thinking about the idea of a superfood, can you think about how to balance your plate in a way that stabilizes your energy and your blood sugar?
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. All right. Emily, how about you? Share one of your personal self-care practices.
I wish I could say I was the 5 a.m. go-getter who worked out, but that is not me. I do wake up and want to like start writing and doing things right away, but I have children, so I can't even do like the morning routine, like not my thing. But for me, I think it goes along with my brand, it's having fun. Like having that element of something creative in another outlet. It's easy for me to be a workaholic. It's easy to have like tons of like to-do lists and tasks that need to get done. But an element of my personality, I'm the Enneagram 7. So like I need to have experiences and fun, and it kind of recharges me. And so I just got through this big launch for one of my programs, and I was just making sure I carved out time, whatever that was for me. And as a mom of 4, that's hard. But like Elizabeth, like I like to move, like I like to play sports, pickleball. But I booked a pottery class with my daughter, and we just did like a hand building thing. And like I have no dreams of being like a wheel thrower or anything, but just the experience of doing it just rejuvenates me. So anytime I can have fun, travel, do something cool. I have a gift card for the Rage Room. I'm definitely going to go do that and experience that. I've done like axe throwing. Like that's where I'm like really taking care of myself.
I love it. Oh my gosh, is there a Rage Room local to us here in Maryland? I wonder.
Maybe we should start one.
I'm so curious what that is.
You go break things. You like sometimes it's letting go, but you can go break little teacups or like bash in like a very old television, and it's just really good for anger release.
I can't remember the movie I watched where they had a scene where they were back in some field and there was a pedestal and you would set the glass thing on top of it and get your baseball bat and your goggles. I thought, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And really, when you think of the idea of fun as a self-care routine, I love that. That's an energy that will feed you for the whole rest of the day, probably the rest of the week. So I love it. Jennifer, how about you? Share one of your personal favorites.
So mine, exercise is like priority number one for me, and has been for 5 years now. Because it isn't just moving my body, there's a mental part to it. So the way I look at it as that's my time of the day that nobody else can get into or bother me, in that space. So that would be like my self-care routine, because I'm able to just kind of clear my head, put on some music, just almost kind of zone out, right? Like kind of get away from the world. And then I have one other thing too. When I'm working and kind of in design mode, I put on music and I light a candle, and I have this peppermint candle that's like my absolute favorite. And it just puts me in this place of like peace, but creative. Like, I don't know, it just gets me in this space. Like that's I don't ever do that outside of designing. It's almost like that's my design zone, and nobody can get into that space. It's like I'm in there, and that fills my cup because I love to design. So I can, even though it's work, I consider that a self-care thing for me.
Well, I love that you talked about a ritual that you use during work to create a self-care environment. Like that just was a beautiful blend, right? Sometimes it's candles for me as well. And just remembering to kind of set the energy and the intention with lighting that one candle. That can make a huge difference. So I love that you talked about that. How perfect. And honestly, work is my life. Like I don't talk really about how other people talk about the separation or the balance. It just is for me. And if I'm enjoying myself, I don't really feel like I'm working. This is my life. I love it. It's purposeful, all the things. But I really love the idea of like creating a ritual around it that feeds you while you're in it. Okay, so Emily, for you first on this one, what strategy has helped you the most in terms of your business success? What do you want to share with people?
Of course, you're going to ask the marketer that question, right?
Why not?
It really is. And as a military wife, I see this all the time. It's like your network, right? It's people who know who you are, who can refer you, who can pass your name along. I think that's the most relieving thing, to know that social media is not going to be the needle mover in your business. It's the one-on-one connections. And I try to tell my service providers this all the time. Like, you can't just hide behind a keyboard and have a business, right? People have to know who you are. That doesn't mean you have to point and dance and be an extrovert, but you do need to network with intention and put yourself out there. And so it's kind of cool that all these chapters align someone to get in the right headspace to do that. I was like thinking of Maureen, I'm thinking of Jen and Elizabeth, and that way we can put our best foot forward. But it's also this, it comes back to PR, but it's a give and take relationship. It's not just like going in and asking for the ask and what you need. It's like, what can you offer to other people? And I think that has been so incredible, because when I started my business, I had been working behind the scenes for 10 years. I had no website, I had no social, I'd worked for a bunch of clients, I did no promotion. Nobody knew who I was invisible. And then I had this idea to teach women what I know so they could work from home. And I was starting from scratch. And at first I got really angry. And then I realized, I was like, why did I not do this? Right? Why did I not plant the tree 10 years ago? And then I realized, I have the tools to do this. I have this ability to connect people and help them. And so I ended up building a business from that, honestly, because I take jobs and I share them with my people and I'm constantly hooking them up. But yeah, I think networking is very overlooked, because we think in terms of oh, we have to automate, we have to be on social, we have to have all these things, but really it is quite simple.
Yeah, it's awesome. I would imagine that all of you would agree with the one that Emily just shared about. Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree as well. Okay, that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for Jennifer and Elizabeth. However, there are so many success strategies, right? Like one of my business coaches said to me, naps are a success strategy, which I totally agree with. But Jennifer, how about you? Tell us another kind of strategy that you really think helped with your business success?
I think communication with your clients, so for me, it's communication through the course of a project, where you're doing the back and forth. I think it's having a I don't know if tolerance level is the right word, but I have worked with so many different personalities of people and clients over time, and you have to adapt to that. I mean, I'm not saying, if somebody's really treating you bad that you accept that, but you definitely need to keep an open line of communication, to keep the project going, to keep it going smoothly, troubleshoot where you need to. But I have found, I have, several clients that I've had for a really long time, and eventually you there's a little bit of a personal level that comes into it, just because you get to know people and you get to know stuff about their families. But that's really important to me, is to be a really good communicator with the client, and to build a relationship with them. I think I find that has served me and my business very well over the course of time. And I love interacting with people. So it kind of fills my cup too. So it serves a dual purpose.
Yeah, perfect. And that's a perfect thing to talk about, after we talk about networking. Well, what's the nitty gritty of that? Well, it's really the communication inside, right? So that's so perfect. All right, Elizabeth, you're going to kind of close out the party today. Tell us your best business strategy.
Yeah, I actually love this question, because I'm always sharing with people that I think the entrepreneurial journey mirrors the journey of breaking up with diet culture and healing your relationship with food so perfectly. So many of the lessons that I learned as an entrepreneur actually apply completely to my clients and what I'm trying to help them through with food. So some of them are just kind of aiming for consistency instead of perfection, which was definitely hard for me in the beginning. I am a recovering perfectionist. And I would say also just connecting with my values and who I am and what's important to me, instead of getting swept away by what everyone else is doing, or what other people are telling you should do in your business. So really that element of trusting yourself. And then I would say definitely reaching out for support. I've done tons of business and leadership and other coaching since I started my business. And it's, we can't see around our own blind spots, and having someone else in your corner that can help you is really, really helpful. That's been powerful for me. And just also allowing it to evolve, right? Maybe it's not exactly what I thought it would be in the beginning, but it maybe turned into something more beautiful instead.
I love it. Fantastic. You see all the head nods as we're all talking today. It's like, oh my gosh, we're all going to get whiplash. Elizabeth Harris, Jen Osterhouse, Emily Reagan, thank you so much for what you do in the world. And thank you for being here to share it with everyone, ladies. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So I know that our listeners are listening and they're getting the goosebumps. Maybe you all resonated with something that was said today. This is so much more than a book. It's a generous community of experts who know how to guide you on that next step. So drop down into the show notes. I have all of them hooked up with their websites. Please go explore and see what they're up to, because it's a lot and awesome. And I know that they're ready to answer a question, support, take you on that next step, right? And also remember, everyone, we're going to have a book launch party and you are invited. It's going to be November 17th, 10 to 11 Eastern. We're going to have all the We Lead authors with us, celebrating this beautiful book and dropping some inspiration and wisdom. And you're going to find some info about that event down below as well. And of course, if you're listening to this interview anytime after that, it just means, well, the book launched and you need to head over to Amazon and grab your beautiful copy of it. So lastly today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.